And what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Designated Players, an MLS podcast. With just a few games to go before the playoffs start, everything is still up for grabs. The supporter shield race is tight as ever. There's just one win that separates a home field advantage in the first round of three and playing in the play-in game in the Eastern Conference. 9 teams are still involved in the West, and any one of them can finish in the same scenario, whether in, play-in, or out. So naturally, we're going to sit down and map out these last couple of games and see how the season is going to end based off of our predictions and how the playoffs are going to shape out. I'm Andrew, that's Connor, and here are our MLS end of season predictions. Connor, it's good to see you, buddy.
Why do you say that?
Oh, wow. Maybe people should go check out our last episode or get ready. No, they won't be. It'll be the next episode after this. They should watch the next episode. That's right.
Let's see, you're breaking the fourth wall now. I don't like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we got
I
to deal
like,
with it
I
because
prefer my homes with four walls.
well, that's too bad because you have like 6 of them in there.
Six, I don't know. I mean, I think you need to work on your math a little bit.
Numbers are hard. Leave me alone. It's not hard talking about scarves. I could talk about scarves all day long. What are you
Oh, we know
rocking
you can. We know you can. You got what we call in the business a problem. Um, I went for the Pride of Texas. Why, you may ask? Because it was the first scarf I found for a team that we were talking about.
Connor's very inventive with his scarf selection, considering he won't buy any new ones, but that's okay.
I had one last episode. You missed out. I don't know what to tell you.
Or next episode.
Sorry, yeah, next episode.
We've got a really great run in for the play-in game in the East, and I'm not spoiling anything, but we've broken out a Red Bull scarf today, friends.
He's spoiling the end of the streak.
Oh, is that what you think?
That's what I know.
Oh man, well, why don't we start in the East? There are only a couple of teams remaining in the Eastern Conference, and it should be the easiest to get through because I think really there are 2 groups of teams. It's positions 5 through 10, so 6 teams total. Miami, Orlando, Nashville, Columbus, Chicago, and Red Bull. Realistically, all but one of them are going to make it. And realistically, the only 2 that are fighting for not being in there are Chicago and Red Bull. That being said, anyone from 5 to 8 who are currently in the playoffs could either make it into the home play-in game or be knocked out and put into the play-in game, or even by a miraculous change of events, not make it. So I think we start top to bottom, and we'll go ahead and talk about Miami first. They are on 52 points with 6 games still to go as they catch up from all the other tournaments they've been playing in. One of which is actually happening the day that this is posted, I believe. I believe they play this Wednesday, which is really cool. They are currently a sneaky favorite to be in the Shield conversation at the end of the day, and some are putting them as favorites. They can finish with a possible 70 points, which is still crazy. However, they're also just a few losses away from ending up in a play-in game spot. Here's what their last 6 look like. They're away to New York City. They're away to Toronto. They get Chicago at home, New England at home, Atlanta at home, and then they go to Nashville to finish the season. We've done this before. For those of you who are new here, essentially, we're just going to give our thoughts on how these games are going to finish up. And then we are going to tally it up at the end and talk about what our end of the year playoff scenario looks like. So, Connor, give it to me. And if you want to give some feedback, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah, so I think Miami's got a relatively favorable schedule towards the end here. 4 out of the 6 teams they're playing against are not making the playoffs. I think most of them have been eliminated already. Some will be eliminated soon. I like to think, as much as I do think Mascherano is not the best coach for them, that they have enough talent in this team to be able to beat the bottom dwellers of the Eastern Conference. So, with that being said, I have them getting 13 points out of their last 6 games to finish off the season on 65 points. I will not
Okay.
spoil yet where that finishes in the standings for me, but that's how I see them finishing it out. I don't know if you want me to go game
Yeah,
by
tell
game.
me tell me game by game. Give me game by game.
All right, I've got them. I got them winning at home against NYC, winning at Toronto. I got a draw at home against Chicago, a win at home against New England, a win at home against Atlanta, and a loss to end the season at Nashville.
New York City's away, isn't it?
I don't think so.
No, it is.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I would say you're
I
making me
think
think.
I might have looked at something else. I don't know what I looked at.
All right, does that change your thought?
It does. I would drop that down to a draw.
Interesting.
So that puts them on 11 points from these last six games and finishing on 63 points.
Hmm. I might have just shaken things up over there. How
You did. I think they actually moved around places a little bit.
how exciting. I agree with you in a lot of this. Okay. So I've got a draw away to New York City, I think playing on the baseball field and NYC's red hot right now. I mean, they're just on a tear. And at that point, they will still be missing Luis Suarez as well. And they're going to be in this mix of a lot of games in a short amount of time. So I've got a draw there. TFC struggling, just want to get out of the season. They're done. Miami wins there. Chicago, enough with your draw. All right, that's nonsense. Don't give me any of that garbage. You know what the narrative needs to be to play out, so stop with that. This is going to be a Miami win. New England is under an interim manager. They're already on their way out. I think Miami gets a win there. Atlanta, dumpster fire, maybe the worst team in the league ever. They can't win on the road. They're already out. Miami gets an easy dub there. And I also have a loss at Nashville because they are disgustingly good at home.
Wow, we were
So,
almost on the same page, almost
yeah, what does
fully.
that? That
But
gives
you're a
me,
Greg Berhalter hater, so you know I know it's the Euro snob in you. You just can't.
yeah, something like that. Trust me, you're gonna love my lead into the
Oh
Chicago
boy.
conversation. But that gives them 13 points out of their last six games for me, ending them on 64, 65, 65. Then we move to Orlando. They are on 51 points with four games left. And like everybody else, like we've been mentioning this whole time, which is the craziest part about this whole thing, is one good result, and they're probably, relatively they'll make the playoffs with a win. But a couple of good results and they're pushing for the top four. If they don't and they start to slump, they might be in the play-in game by next week. Like it's insane to think. And their run-in is not easy. They go to FC Cincinnati, and then they have two home games against Columbus and Vancouver before they finish it away at Toronto. Give me your thoughts on their last four.
So Orlando for me, I've got them losing it at FCC. I think FCC is just going to be too tough of an opponent. Still plenty to play for them, so they're going to be trying. Then I think at home for both Columbus and Vancouver, I've got a draw for them. I think home field advantage gives them a little bit of a leg up over the other two, but I think Columbus has everything to fight for still in terms of a home playoff game. So I think they're going to be up for the challenge in that one. Vancouver, everything to play for the Shield. They've had a spectacular season. I'm sure they want to, they don't want it to fall apart at the end in the last few games. But obviously, Orlando is a solid team as well. So I think it's going to be a tough matchup for both sides. And then I think on the final day, there's always some weird stuff that goes on the final day. I think this is going to be one of them where they trip up a little bit at TFC and only come away with 1 point. So I've got them on 3 points out of their last four games and finishing on 54 points total.
That's ridiculous. You're that's that I could see the hater in you. I could see it.
You can't
Um,
see anything. I'll turn my camera off again.
yeah. I've got FCC winning that game as well. I think it's first off, I think it's gonna be a great game. I think it's gonna be a really, really good game between an Orlando team that is pushing for the top four and a Cincinnati team that's trying to win the Shield. I think this is going to be a very good game, but I think Evander and Denke take over Orlando on this one. Columbus are in the worst form of any team coming into this final stretch of games, and they are now missing both Diego Rossi and their newest signing Abu Ali, who went down with an ankle injury just earlier this week. Orlando's at home. It's not an easy place to play. I think Orlando gets a win here. Vancouver at home is big, especially if they try to make up games on the back end. They're going to have a condensed schedule and then a cross country trip. But I do think that there's enough quality there for them to get a draw against Orlando, so I get a draw in that game. And TFC loses this even though they're at home, so I give a win there. So that's 7 points for me, ending on 58. But I think the combination of Ojeda and Pasalic and that whole attack that they've got going is really, really dangerous. And in transition, they'll be successful. On paper, this is a tough run in. I think FCC is going to play them hard. I think Columbus is not as good as people think they are right now, and I think Vancouver is going to be kind of in the middle where they're balancing getting ready for playoffs if they're not in the Shield conversation by this point, right? If they're out of the Shield conversation now, it's a different story. So we then move to Nashville, who could easily host a play-in game. They could be back in the playoffs properly. I mean, they're on 50 points with just three to go. And that is what's holding them back right now from being, in that conversation of the best, right? They've had a couple bad losses or bad results that have kept them just on the outside looking in. So not only do they need to win all of their games, but they need a little bit of help. They've got Houston at home, they've got Montreal away, and they've got Miami at home, which we've already both spoken about, and we both said that they're going to win that game. So there are two games left to talk about here. What do you got going for Houston and Montreal?
Yeah, so Nashville's another team that's not exactly coming into the best form. With that being said, I think their schedule for the rest of the season is easy enough that they can get results in all three games for me. So I've got them winning at home against Houston. I've got them winning at Montreal. I think, as you've probably mentioned or will mention, Montreal, their season's toast. They're at this point just, I guess, trying to fight to not be the wooden spoon. And then we talked previously before about Miami, but I've got Nashville winning that one as well. So I've got them taking 9 points out of their last three games, which would put them on 59 points to end the season.
Put her there, buddy. We did it. Um,
Careful not to smack my camera too hard. I might
yeah,
unplug
you're
again.
gonna disconnect it. No, this is tricky, right? So I do think that they're gonna win out. I think they're gonna go win, 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 59 points. However, I don't think it's gonna be a walk in the park, right? I think Houston's gonna be tricky for them. They need to get points to get in the playoffs. They're gonna be going, all out, but they're bad away from home, and Nashville's really good at home. So I think that they win this just based off of location. Montreal, they're actually not bad. I watched them against Red Bull. They're not terrible. They just can't score. They put the ball in the front of the goal and nothing happens. Genuinely, it looks like a bunch of people who have never played soccer before once they get into the opponent's 18. Building up, they look unbelievable. The second they get into the attacking third, it's like, what is soccer? Which is crazy. Nashville, on the other hand, I don't know if you know, very good in front of goal. They got this guy, Sam Surridge, um, kind of like almost winning the Golden Boot right now. And they're not very good defensively, Montreal. So I do think Nashville takes this, and we already talked about Miami. So both of us have them winning out, which is very exciting. Let's then talk about Columbus, who is a team in absolute free fall right now. The opposite of how you want to get into the playoffs, if you will, right? You always talk about hottest team, don't want to face them. Well, this is a Columbus team that is going in ice cold. Nancy ball is being figured out. And the problem with it is that it relies on the very skilled players that they had to be successful. And with a ton of injuries, including Diego Rossi and Abu Ali, it is just not working. This could be a really bad few matches for Columbus because in their last three, they have to go to Chicago, they have to go to Orlando, and they have to play Red Bull at home. What do you got?
So I have got a draw at Chicago. Not sure how confident I feel about that one, but I think I still believe in Wilfred Nancy to be able to get results out of this team. I mean, regular season wise, this team is usually, I mean, not as low as they are right now, but they're not as dominant as they normally are when it comes to the playoffs. But that's kind of what I mean. I feel like Wilfred Nancy knows how to get the most out of this team when it's crunch time and it's meaningful games, and every game right now is meaningful for the rest of the season. So I think they can get a result out of this one and get a draw at Chicago. We talked about the Orlando game before. I've also got them getting a draw in that one. And to complete the trifecta, I've got a draw at home against Red Bull to end the season. So I've got Columbus getting a draw in each of their last three games, also getting 3 points to end the season and finishing up on 53 points.
That is very, very crazy. However, not the most crazy. I also have a draw at Chicago because Chicago can't play at home for whatever reason, and Columbus just aren't clicking at the moment. So, immovable force versus unstoppable object, right? Draw.
Those are definitely choice words to use for those two situations. It's like
Uh,
very movable force, very stoppable object.
um, and then at Orlando, we talked about already. I had a loss there as well. And then Red Bull on decision day, a game I may be at, depending on how all this plays out, is going to be a loss because I don't watch Red Bull lose at home or when I'm in person, I should say. So um, I've got them on 1 point in their last three, finishing at 51. Is it enough to get in the playoffs? Let's talk about Chicago, the team everyone loves to hate. And listen, I'm not one to welcome all the hate watchers and the trolls and the USMNT haters who are wishing for Chicago's downfall just because GGG, Triple G is in charge. But right now, we need all of that negative energy directed to his big bald head. And we need it directed towards Chicago for the sake of the New York Red Bulls. Because with 45 points, they've got four to go. It is a race to see who can get into the final spot. Red Bull really can't catch anybody else except Chicago or Columbus if they really do as poorly as we think they're going to. But that's the longest shot. So in their last four, they get Columbus at home, which we've talked about. They get Miami away, we've talked about. They get Toronto at home, and they get New England away. Let's go through Columbus, you said was a draw. Miami, you said was also a draw. Weird. Toronto and New England, what do you got?
Yeah, Chicago's a bit of a weird team coming in. They seem to be very hit or miss on results. Probably shouldn't have gone for the double draw considering they have one draw in their last 8 games. They just go for
Okay.
broke. I got to appreciate that from my Triple G legend, but I've got them winning at home against Toronto. As you talked about, Toronto, pretty much nothing to play for at this point. Just hit the reset button for next year, maybe play some kids, get them some game time. And then, maybe to give you a glimmer of hope, on decision day at New England, another one of these trip up games for me. I think they lose that one.
Mm,
This is one of those weird ones where they're getting a flip result. I know they won at home against New England. It looks like it's a tight score line, but I think at New England, New England finds a way to get something out of the last game of the season, even though they have nothing to play for. And Chicago, for me, will then end up with 5 points and finish on 50.
that's weird. That means that you think Red Bull's winning out to make it into the playoffs. That's crazy.
You got me.
Um,
You have my notes up?
yeah, must have. I already said that Chicago Columbus was a draw. I've already said that Miami Chicago was a loss. Toronto and New England, two teams, season's over, right? But what do we talk about without this idea of relegation, right? What's the point of the end of the season? It's to find form and get yourself ready for the next season. Toronto, they're going to Chicago. Chicago, not good at home. We keep talking about this. They don't perform well. They're a road team, right? Toronto's going to come in and say, listen, let's get together. Let's put in a good performance. Let's show the gaffer that we belong in the team. Let's play for our jobs. They're going to get a draw here. It's going to be a tough one, but it's going to be a draw.
Oh my God.
And then New England, of all teams, they got the interim manager. Caleb Porter's gone. The negative energy, the aura, if you will, for the way the kids say it these days, is out. They get to play with freedom. They get to play with happiness and enjoyment. Carlos Heel playing in front of all of his international fans watching him play. They're going to clutch up on the last day. They're going to get hot and win one to build momentum into the 2026 season. This is also a loss. I've got them finishing on 2 points with 47 total.
That was Olympic levels of hurdles that you just jumped over to try and get Red Bull into the playoffs. That was insane. That was actual ridiculous logic. Some of the
How do
most
you know I'm
ridiculous
putting Red
logic.
Bull in the playoffs? Maybe this is it. Maybe it's over.
I listen, I you keep going back to this narrative that Chicago are like a horrible team at home, but they did beat Red Bull at home. So
Yeah, and so does everybody else. You know how many wins Red Bull have on the season on the road? Two, and one of them
why
came
would
from
I know
Montreal
that? Why would I know that?
because you're supposedly no ball, but obviously you don't because
Chicago has won three of their last five at home and have been unbeaten in four of their last five at home. So I don't know where this narrative is that you're making up to try to find a way to get Red Bull in the playoffs. You can look for who asked is all that you want.
I'm
I
looking
don't
for who
care if
asked because
you
I
asked.
didn't ask.
I
I
don't
did not
care
want.
if you asked.
I don't want to know, nor do I care.
I'm just telling you.
What I'm going to tell you is that we need to take all that negative energy that we were harnessing, you and I together, for Chicago, and we need to take whatever positive is left and send it to Red Bull. Just ship all the way over to Red Bull because the playoff streak is on the line, guys, and we need to manifest some magic over here. They had multiple disappointing results. Chicago, New England, DC, all the teams that we were supposed to beat, we couldn't do it, right? And with 3 games left, we're on 43 points. We've got New York City at home, we've got FCC at home, and we've got Columbus away. Now, we've already talked about Columbus. You and I both have them winning, right?
Nope.
What do you have, Columbus?
I have a draw.
Well, I think you just misspoke there. But anyways, talk to me about the Hudson River Derby and talk to me about FC Cincinnati.
Yeah, so you got a tough schedule to end the season. And your only saving grace is the fact that all three of these games are home games. However, NYC, as you talked about, in great form coming in. They look to be very strong. It's a rivalry game, so does form matter as much? I'd probably say no. I think a rivalry game is just a complete crapshoot. And based on that, I think it's going to be a draw. I think Red Bull get something out of a game they probably shouldn't get something out of. Then you got FCC. Realistically, I should say nothing here. You get nothing because FCC are significantly better than Red Bull. But because, again, you're home, I'm giving you a crumb here and saying that it's going to be another draw. So I've also got Red Bull on the Columbus route of drawing their last 3 games, getting 3 points, and finishing on 46, officially ending your annoying playoff streak.
Oh, you're again, you just don't know ball, and that's too bad. But we'll tell you how this is really going to go. The New York City is going to be a draw. We're at home. City are good, but they're on the this is going to be the last game in their like 6 games in 17 days sort of stretch. They're going to be tired. They'll be up for it, but we're going to be able to catch them at the right time. Realistically, this could be 3 points, but I'm not that crazy. So I'm going to give them a draw because we're good at home and we're going to be up for the derby, right? FCC at home, I also feel like is a gettable point for us. However, FCC are so good on the road. I think have they hit 10 wins this year? I think I believe that's true. Yeah, 10 wins on the road this year. It's tough to play them away, and that just is a mark of a good team. Denke and Evander are very very good, and we don't perform well against those top teams, right? So I have us losing FC Cincinnati, and as we spoke about, against all odds, the New York Red Bulls, who cannot score on the road, let alone win games on the road, are going to dig deep against a down bad and struggling Columbus side, missing all of their stars through injury, and clutch up a win in the final game to get us to 50 points, hop the Chicago Fire, and play Columbus away again in the play-in game. That, my friends, is how this is going to work.
I didn't know you were a gymnast.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
That's crazy.
So I think not much changes in terms of the final standings. You're going to have Miami making the playoffs, and we didn't do the teams that have already made it either. So it's a little tough to figure out where they're going to stay. I know you might have. I know you were talking about doing that, but I did not. So do you want to give your thoughts? I think the only thing that matters here is that Chicago is not going to make the playoffs. The Red Bulls are, and it'll be Chicago. It'll be Chicago out, Red Bull Columbus in the play-in game.
I did do every game that's left in this season so far. So I'll just run through my whole standings. I got Philly. I'll go one. 1 to 15. I got Philly, FCC, Miami, Charlotte, Nashville, NYC, Orlando, Columbus, Chicago, Red Bull, New England, Atlanta, Toronto, DC, Montreal.
Do you
So
know how much it hurts, by the way, that I need to sit here and root against the Chicago Fire, I have had making the playoffs for the last 6 years, and sit here and say no, they won't because Red Bull need to make it? Do you know how bad that hurts me inside?
you've lived long enough to see yourself become the villain.
That is perfect. That is perfect. Now we get to the interesting part because as we mentioned, the Western Conference still has so many teams in it. It is not as strong as the Eastern Conference. However, that means that a lot of teams are still in it for those bottom spots. So we are still looking at 9 teams involved: Seattle, Austin, Portland, Colorado, Dallas, or Dallas, depending on who you ask. Houston, San Jose, RSL, and St. Louis all are still in it with a semblance of a chance to make it into the final playoffs. Oh man, this is going to be tough. As you know, our ball knowledge for the East is pretty good. Our ball knowledge for the West, we very
Is
rarely are
doubly
good.
good.
We're very rarely good in these moments. But let's talk about Seattle because they're just doing Seattle things, right? They're casually hanging around the bottom of the home games, top of the away games part of the standing. They picked up a little trophy. Nobody's talking about them. They're on 45 points with 4 to go. They dropped a heartbreaker to Austin, but they're in it, right? Most likely they're making the playoffs. They're not confirmed yet, but here's the last four. It's home versus Vancouver, home versus Portland, home versus RSL, and away to New York City. Talk to me, Connor. What do you got?
I think I'm going a bit heavy for Seattle here. I
Simp.
It's
Sorry.
true. I've been to their stadium, so
It's
I
the
am
only stadium you've been to. You have to support them.
that's not true. Not true. I've been to multiple stadiums. I've been to Seattle, St. Louis, and NYCFC.
You've been to St. Louis?
I did. I was at the stadium before they even
Yeah,
officially
sorry,
had
you
their
were on the
first game.
outside. You drove by it.
I didn't drive by it. I have pictures of me at the stadium with a scarf.
Did you go see a game?
There was the game was at night.
So no,
It
you
was a
weren't
friendly
at this.
against
You
Freiburg
just,
or something like that.
yeah. I've been to Columbus too. I drove by it going from Alfred to
I
Kentucky.
didn't
Yeah.
drive by it. I went to the stadium. I went as close as I was allowed to go at that time.
Go
Um,
on. What do you got?
so I've got Seattle at home winning against. I actually have them winning all of their home games. I have them winning at home against Vancouver, Portland, and RSL. I just can't bet against a Schmetzer team at home. I just have faith in them and what the energy the crowd is able to bring to this team in meaningful games at this point in the season. That being said, their last game at NYCFC, I think, is going to be a loss. I think it's going to be a long travel. They have a game relatively like their RSL game, I believe. I deleted it. I think it's a short week, and then they have to go all the way out to the East Coast. I really do think that's going to have some effect on them. And I don't think they'll be able to get a result in the baseball field. But 9 points out of your last 4 games is pretty solid. So I've got them finishing on 54 points.
Very nice. Very nice. You are very right to believe in a Schmetzer home team because Seattle loves a home game. Right? What are we looking at? We're looking at a Seattle team that's got 8 wins, one loss at home, and 5 draws. I mean, they know how to pick up points. Vancouver, on the other hand, they're just generally good, and this is at the start of their kind of long run into the end of the season, right? So I've got a draw to kick off their little homestand here. Cascadia Cup at home against Portland is going to be a must-watch event, but I give it to Seattle at home. RSL, they're not good at home, or they're not good away from home rather. They leak goals at the back. It's just not a great look for them. I give that a win to Seattle. And then, like you mentioned, New York City away is tough. Seattle has not traveled well this year, and it's short rest, so I give that a loss. So I've got them on 7 points to finish with 52. Did I do that right? Yeah, math is good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll talk about Austin then, because Seattle lost a game to Austin, and it was a 96th minute winner. And it was huge because it put them all the way up to sixth in the standings, which makes their goal of securing a spot before deadline or decision day that much more attainable. They've got 44 points with 4 games to go, and it looks like this: away to RSL, home versus St. Louis, home versus LAFC, and away to San Jose. What say you?
What I say is that for a lot of the same reasons you talked about RSL, plus the fact that Austin is not the worst road team. I mean, they're not exactly world beaters, but they can get a result on the road. I think they beat RSL. Then at home, kind of they're not exactly the best home team, but they're playing a St. Louis team that is pretty much out of it at this point, and is very, very bad on the road. So I've got them beating St. Louis at home. Home against LAFC, I think that's going to be definitely a very tough one for them. LAFC are relatively decent on the road. I think this ends up being a draw. And then to wrap the season at San Jose, I can't bet against Bruce on decision day. I'm going for San Jose getting the win there. So I've got Austin getting 7 points out of the last four and finishing on 51 points.
Very interesting. See, this is where I think the West gets really fun, right? Six to RSL's in 12, Austin's in six. They're separated by,
Eight
wait for
points?
it,
No, 10
eight
points.
points.
10 points.
Is it 10?
That's
Yeah,
what it
it's
looks
10
like.
points. Yeah, it's 10 points. 10 points. But a couple of results just changes the whole system because RSL don't need 10 points. RSL need three. So you know they're going for it. They are not doing well defensively at the moment. Things are starting to leak. However, Austin doesn't score a ton of goals either, right? They don't generate a lot of chances. They're low in that sense. So I got to draw at RSL. I also have a win at St. Louis. I think they're in it by mathematics only because everybody else is so mid, but they would need to win out and get help. I don't see it happening. LAFC, I don't think anybody's stopping Bouanga and Son right now. That's a loss for me, even though they are at home. And San Jose away, they're they're such a weird team. They can't. I don't even know. I don't even know. But I'm gonna give this. Heck, let's go for fun. Let's give it a draw because what? How do you bet on a Bruce team that's scored 56 goals but also conceded 58? Like what's gonna happen? You want to talk about immovable object and unbreakable force or whatever? You've got a team that scores for fun and concedes for fun against a team that doesn't know how to score goals and cannot and won't concede goals. I mean, draw, and it's gonna be 0-0 or it's gonna be 7-7, and there's no in between. So I've got 3, 4, 5 to end on 49. We then move to Portland, who again is right in the mix of it. They're sitting in seventh, 42 points with 4 to go. They are pretty much out. What I'd say is the difference between the West and the East is the gap between the top four and the bottom four is pretty big, right? You've got 4 games left, 12 possible points. You can end on 54. LAFC needs one result, and you're pretty much out of the top four from this point forward, right? But the difference is everybody underneath fighting for that playoff line is more than in it. So Portland fighting to not necessarily get to the top, but to stay in the bottom without dropping to the play-in game or out has to go to Vancouver. They get Dallas at home. They then need to go to Seattle, like we mentioned, and they get San Diego at home to finish the year. What are you thinking?
First one, I have literally no logic behind it, but I think somehow, some way, Portland gets a result against Vancouver at Vancouver. Um, Not a win, but a draw. Then at home against Dallas, Portland been a pretty good home team. Dallas, yes, they have stuff to play for, but haven't exactly been very good this season. I think Portland takes the three there. We talked about the Seattle game before. I think they lose at Seattle. And then they finish the season at San Diego,
San
where,
Diego comes to them.
yep, sorry, they finished the season with San Diego coming to Portland, and I have Portland actually winning that one. I think
That's
San Diego
crazy.
I think San Diego slips at the end, similar to how I was going to say St. Louis. I guess St. Louis kind of was in the playoffs, so that isn't really a fair comparison. But I think I think San Diego slips towards the end here. I mean, they've already started a little bit with their draw against Atlanta. I think the door is going to be open for Portland, and I think they take it 3 points. So I think they finish with 7 out of their 4 and finish on 49 points.
I think that's crazy, dude. San Diego, I think is so good, but we'll talk about it in a second. Vancouver, at home, very good. Portland away from home. Again, Portland's weird because they went on this really bad skid of not being able to win games at home and really struggling to find those results, or win games in general, right? Then Red Bull came to town and they fixed that problem. No, no issues there. Um, I'm going to give this to Vancouver away. I think I'm going to say Vancouver wins that game, so they lose that game. Dallas, I do think they win that game. I think, yeah, I'm just not. I'm not. Here's what I'll say. First off, we got to give a shout out to uh, Cody, and I don't know if he wants to use our last name, so I'm just going to call him Cody. But I don't know if you remember our first ever question of the week was of all the teams that are on the bubble, who's the team that's going to get in? And he left us a really good comment explaining why Dallas, without Luciano Acosta, is actually playing better as a team, looking like they are playing better football. They are going to climb their way up the standings and get themselves into the playoffs. And here we are with 4 games left, and they're in the playoff spot. So Cody, a big shout out to you for that call. That call. Unfortunately, I do think Portland has your number here, but that doesn't mean later on good things might happen. I talked about Seattle being a loss. San Diego also will be a loss. This team is the only 10-win team on the road in the Western Conference. They're firing on all cylinders. Unless somebody drastic gets hurt, I don't see it happening. So I see Portland finishing with 3 points of their last 4 games on 45.
I mean, listen, San Diego couldn't take 3 points against the mighty Atlanta United. That's all I'm saying. I know, shaking in your boots over there.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah. You know who's not shaking? The mighty Chris Armas, in charge of Colorado, has no fear as he leads his team, currently in 8th place with 3 games left on their schedule. They are sitting on 39 points. They're just 3 points above the line in the very, very tight race. Like I said, from 7 to I'm gonna take St. Louis out of it. From 7 to 12, so 6 teams, we're looking at a gap of 6 points. Anything can happen, and that's crazy. Or maybe 8 points. Numbers are hard. Is it six? It's eight. It's eight. Anyways, numbers are hard. But we're looking at a really, really tight gap, and anything can happen. And Colorado is the definition of anything can happen, especially after Georgi Mihailovic left. So their last 3: Minnesota at home, RSL away, LAFC at home. What do you got?
It's not looking so hot for the mighty Chris Armas in my eyes. I think at home against Minnesota, Colorado has been a pretty good home team. Granted, Minnesota has also been a very good away team, so it's kind of hard to bet against Minnesota on the road here. That being said, I'm gonna kind of like neutral it out, and I think you're getting a draw here. Then at RSL, I think this is a loss for them. They are a poor road team. 9 losses already this year on the road. RSL's not exactly a juggernaut at home, but they're much better at home than they are away. So I think as much as RSL is having struggles, I think they can pull out a win at home against Colorado here. And then wrap things up at the end of the season at home against LAFC. I'm kind of on board with you. I just think LAFC is riding momentum right now. The Sharundalo train is making its last route, and I just think they're going to be too much for Colorado to handle, despite Colorado being a pretty good home team. So I don't have them winning it or getting any points out of that last game. So I've got them getting 1 point out of their last 3 games and finishing on 40 to end the season.
I will tell you, I agree. I'm straight on. We go, bop. Wait, nope, there you are. Boop.
Oh, oh.
Minnesota. So I would have made it losses on all 3, but Minnesota moving on from a couple of players and kind of rotating and resting through Open Cup was interesting to me, and I'm just kind of interested to see how that comes back out. So with Tane Aluashi, of course, not being there and things like that, I think it's a draw just as they try to figure out life without him. And then I've got a loss at RSL. I think RSL in the last couple of games are going to flip a switch. Pablo Mastroeni knows how to motivate his players, knows how to get them to the next level. And I think at home, they're not going to let that slip. So I see that being a win for RSL. And then, like I said, I'm not betting against LAFC to save anybody's life. So yeah, 1.40. Not looking good, Big Chris. And then we go over to FC Dallas, who, like we said, got the shout out to make it into the spot. And with 4 games to go, are sitting in, they control their destiny with 4 games to go. If they win out, they make the playoffs, which is crazy. And they have been on a really good tear since the departure of Luciano Costa. Right? If we look at their schedule really quick, I'll bring it up just in the past. Yeah, so let's talk about their last couple of games, right? They are unbeaten since August. Going from August on, right? They beat Dallas. Dallas beat Portland 2-0. They tied Austin 1-1. They tied LAFC 1-1. They tied St. Louis 1-1. Then they beat Austin again 2-0, and they just beat Colorado 3-1. So that's 6 games on the balance without a loss, and 8 of their last 9. The only loss they had was an insane 3-4 game to New York City. That's pretty impressive for a team. We talk about getting hot at the right moments, right? Um, so their last 4, Portland away. We talked about it already. We both said that Portland, unfortunately, is going to get their number. They get LA Galaxy at home and away, back to back, and then Vancouver away on decision day. What do you got?
So I've got, yeah, we talked about the Portland game already. I had yeah, you mentioned it, Portland winning, so no points there for them. So at home against the Galaxy, I think they take that one. 3 points. We granted this is from a starting point of rock bottom, but I think the Galaxy have been a little bit better than when we've talked about them earlier in the season. That being said, I think Galaxy get a point at home. So I think Dallas gets 3 at home, 1 away against their little home and away against the Galaxy. And then at Vancouver, I think is a brutal game to end the season. I don't see them taking 3 points away from Vancouver, not the way they're playing right now. So I've got Dallas getting 4 points to end the season and finishing on 41.
Right. I am a bit different than you. We already talked about Portland. I've got a double win at LA. I think they're going to be playing for pride, but if Dallas can just knock 1 or 2 by them, they're going to quit. It's just the nature of the beast. So I'm gonna have a double win there. And then Vancouver away is tough, right? They're good at home. It will be on the back end of a lot of games though, right? They've got 5 left. So they'll be fitting in a midweek somewhere before they get to decision day. I don't know, man. Something about Cody's comment got me thinking. I think I'm gonna give him a draw here. Give him 7 points to end the year, going 48. I'm not sorry, not 48. Excuse me. Sorry, 44. 44. Sorry, I was adding to your total, not mine. But that's enough to put them. It's enough to put them above Colorado and just below, for me at least, Portland. So we'll see how the rest of it plays out because it's still very close. And we start with Houston. Benny Ball never dies, and somehow Benny Ball is still alive after only winning 9 games this year. Long live MLS, right? 36 points. They're 1 point below the line right now, but only 3 games to go. So the other benefit that Dallas has is they've got a game in hand on most everybody else. So Houston, with 3 games left, 9 possible points, they can only get up to 45. So they're officially out of the top 4, as are many, many teams that we're talking about now, but they can still sneak into that playing game and fight for something more. They get Nashville away, they get San Diego at home, and they get Sporting KC away. What are your thoughts? And we've already talked about Nashville, haven't we? For
We
Nashville,
have.
we said they both are going to we both said they're going to lose. Houston's going to lose this game to Nashville away.
Yes, correct. Their next game not looking a ton better. I know they're home, but they're up against San Diego. I've got San Diego winning that one. And then luckily their last game of the season is a little bit easier. It is a road game for them. They've been okay on the road, surprisingly. So I like their chances here against a already eliminated and very bad SKC team. I think they get the win there. So they get 3 points in their last three and finish on 39.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way. It's interesting that you said the San Diego at home, you know, it mattered here, but it didn't matter for Portland, did it?
I mean, you're talking about Portland versus Houston here.
The disrespect to Benny Ball, insane. How dare you?
You
No, I've also got a
disrespected me. I
loss.
backed him this year and he's torched me here.
That was crazy. Um, I've got a San Diego loss here, or a loss to San Diego as well. And then at that point they'll be on 36 with one game to go. Based off of everything I've got, they'll be done. They'll be out on decision day. So I'm gonna say that they probably either rotate or they give up or they quit or something. I'm gonna give them a draw on the road, let them finish on 37. If we're not counting out Benny Ball, we sure as heck can't count out King Bruce, the number one coach in MLS history. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. They're on 35 points with three to go. Out of they've got a possible 44 to finish. So they need to win and get some help in the form of Dallas or uh, Colorado not being successful, which we have predicted may happen. The problem is their run in is brutal. They have to go to San Diego. They then have to go to Vancouver and they have to host Austin to finish the year. What do you got?
Yeah, like you said, this is a tough schedule for them to end the year. We had talked about, actually, no, we talked about the last game. At San Diego and at Vancouver, I'll make this quick. I don't think they're getting points on these out of these two games. You're playing the top two teams in the conference, both of which on the road. I don't like your chances there. Then at home against Austin to end the season, I think this is when Bruce Bruce's his best and gets a win and ends the season on a little bit of a bright note, but missing the playoffs. I've got them getting 3 points out of the last three games and finishing on 38.
Yeah, man. I'm almost with you there. I think I've got losses at San Diego, at Vancouver, who are both going to be fighting for shield spots. They're both going to be playing for something big for the home field advantage all the way through the playoffs. I mean, it's a big ask of them. But then I think we talked about it at Austin. I've got a draw here, so I have them finishing on 36 with just 1 point in their last three games. But yeah, everything you said about the play in for San Diego, Vancouver, just a brutal draw to end the year. But they put themselves in this situation, and now they have to deal with it. So the last team with four games remaining, everybody else, well, there's only one other team left, but St. Louis has three, RSL has four, so they've got a possible 46 points that they can get to, which would put them well into the playoff picture and mess up things for a lot of other teams, right? Colorado could be out, Dallas could be out based on some predictions here. I mean, there's a whole bunch that can go wrong if they win out and if Pablo Mastroeni's men can figure it out. Their run-in is very tough. They've got Austin at home, Colorado at home, Seattle away, and they finish with St. Louis on decision day, which, depending on how St. Louis does, could be a really big one for them. So we both already said that the first three games we've already predicted. So Austin, you say that they're going to lose that game. I say they're going to draw that game. Colorado, we both say they're going to win. Seattle, we both say they're going to lose. So it really just ends up on St. Louis. How is that game going to end for St. Louis?
Yeah, so I think, well, surely at that point, St. Louis will not really have anything to play for. That being said, other than just pride and getting things moving into the next season, I do think St. Louis at home takes this one here. I think
Oh,
RSL has been, I mentioned it before, they've been very poor on the road. St. Louis isn't exactly a juggernaut at home, but I think there's enough talent for St. Louis to get a result out of this one and get a little bit of momentum going into the next season. So I've got RSL getting 3 points out of the last four games and finishing on 37.
you love a little bit of St. Louis momentum at the end of the year. It was your big thing last
I
year.
have to
It's your big
try and
thing
save
this
my
year.
predictions a little bit. I went big on St. Louis this year.
Well, here's the one thing that you don't count on, and so did I, by the way. So I don't blame you there. Of all the teams in MLS history, Which team loves a dramatic decision day more than RSL, baby? You got the bicycle kick to knock Zlatan out. You got another LA Galaxy one that they knocked out. You got the MLS Cup run. You have the I mean, all of it is just it just sets up. And Pablo Mastroeni at the helm, you know he's gonna feed into this. You know he's gonna live for this moment, right? Just really milk it for all that he's got. So on decision day, I've got them beating St. Louis to take them to 41 points total. So they lose three there. Is it 41? Three, six, seven? Yeah, 41 points total. Uh, and that would mess up a whole lot for a whole lot of people. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but that bumps Houston out for me and that bumps Colorado out for me. But I think RSL make a late run and get themselves into the playoffs because Pablo just loves a late one there, you know?
I That's a fair point, honestly.
Yeah. Well, let's finish this up. Let's round this off with maybe there's no big ending to this one, right? It's St. Louis who's got three left, 28 points. They are um, literally only alive by mathematical coincidence. They need to win. They need to have Dallas lose everything. Houston needs to lose everything. San Jose needs to lose everything. And Salt Lake needs to lose everything. So everybody in front of them needs to lose out, and then they need to win. What do you think? You get LAFC at home, Austin away, and RSL at home. We talked about the first two already. What do you think? Think they're going to pull it off?
I'm not very hopeful for them, to be honest with you. I uh I don't think they'll be able to pull it off. I weird Weirdly enough, I think they I think they get a freak point against LAFC
Of course you
at
do.
home.
It's all in the
And
name of that,
then
ending strong, right?
yeah, exactly. And then I think they lose at Austin as we talked about, and I think they beat RSL. Um yeah, I just obviously they're not making some miraculous comeback into the playoffs, but maybe a little bit of momentum to make the fans feel a little bit better going into next season.
You know what? For our friends in St. Louis who are always so nice to us, I'll give them a draw at LAFC just to give them that little boost. Uh, I'll get a draw at Austin as well. I already talked about that, and then the loss at RSL. So I'll let them finish on 30. But yeah, that's good. So if we look at this really quick, you've got who makes it? So you've got Seattle's in, Austin's in, Portland's in, Dallas is in, and then Colorado's traveling to Dallas for the play-in game with Houston, San Jose, RSL, and St. Louis out. Very boring. No movement amongst anything except two teams. Lame. I got Seattle in. I've got Austin in. I've got Portland in. I've got Dallas, and I've got RSL in the play-in game, which means Colorado's out, Houston's out, San Jose's out, and St. Louis is out. So big jump by RSL to finish this off. Shout out to all of my RSL friends. Make sure I get my paycheck for giving you your hype. Man, that was fun. I love this episode. This is always a lot of fun. And we waited a little bit longer this year to see how it would play out. We still needed to cover 12 teams. So talk about no games matter, right? Um, Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you're following us for more of our What Went Wrong series. We're doing that with all of our guests this year. And make sure also you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, so you know when it goes live. And then also hang out with us on social media, no Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Blue Sky. That's where we're at. Come interact with us and have a good time. Um, yeah, this has been really, really fun. Connor, I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
Good. Great. Well, we'll see you next time. Bye bye.